Hello, and welcome to Module 2, Stained Glass Patterns. At the end of this module, you'll be able to choose a stained glass pattern based on symmetry and create your own stained glass pattern. Stained glass patterns are the heart of any stained glass project. You can choose from a number of websites that will allow you to download patterns for free, and we've listed a number of them in our helpful links section back on our main page. I, however, recommend you never buy a pattern. They can be quite expensive, and they're easy to create with just a little bit of time and effort. When choosing and eventually creating a stained glass pattern, there are certain design considerations. The first consideration is balance. An unbalanced object will cause discomfort to your eye. We are, after all, well balanced ourselves. We have two eyes and we have two ears, and they're both separated by an imaginary line that runs through the bridge of our noses. So as symmetrical creatures, we like to see symmetry. Symmetry is when one side mirrors the other. This type of image in stained glass has broad appeal. In fact, if you look at most advertising prints, you will see that symmetry dominates the industry. Here in front of you is a pattern I drew that represents symmetry. In contrast, asymmetrical balance is when objects or images are placed and there are no mirror images in your pattern, like you see here. You achieve balance by distributing equally interesting images throughout the entire project. If your eye does not settle on one specific place, yet wanders evenly over the entire pattern, then you've probably achieved good balance with asymmetry. Asymmetry in stained glass is quite rare. I encourage you to experiment with all forms, but until you find out where your taste lies. But I recommend symmetry to start with because it's a little bit easier. Once you have decided on the design, sketch the design on a piece of paper that is the same size as the stained glass piece will eventually be. Be aware of any pieces that are too small or very large. Small pieces will be covered by solder and hidden from view, and large pieces may crack or break easily. Vary the lines so they do not end in a sharp point, or they will glob solder and will be unattractive. Can you identify the couple areas here where it ends in a sharp point? In the last picture of the butterfly, I had a couple sharp points that I drew in. They were artistically accurate, but very difficult to cut glass in those shapes. In addition, when you go to solder your piece later on, where multiple lines converge into one section, globs of solder can form, and that tends to be rather unattractive. So you can see in this image, I actually redrew the butterfly and removed a couple of the sharp edges. This will make it easier to eventually cut the glass and solder. Once you have completed your design, now trace over that design with a wide black marker. Use a ruler on straight lines and then number each piece. Since you are a beginner, start with a small project that uses less than 10 pieces. Stay away from complicated curves. Stick with geometric figures like the ones you see in front of you. Once you have completed a few small projects, then you can move on to more complex ones later on. When the pattern is correct, you can start making pattern pieces. If you use pattern shears like you learned in tools and equipment, you can cut out the pattern directly on the line. If you don't have pattern shears, then cut them with sharp scissors on each side of the line. When you are done, you should have a pattern pieces with no ink marks on the edges. Now start by laying the patterns on the glass and trace around with a Sharpie. Try to align your pieces to conserve as much glass as possible. If you look at the picture in front of you, the pieces are not aligned well. It will be very difficult, if not impossible, to cut out one piece without destroying the other. In this picture, the patterns are all aligned horizontally, allowing me to cut the glass into strips first and then individually, conserving glass and ensuring each piece comes out accurate. Your assignment is to create your own stained glass pattern. Use geometric shapes, incorporate symmetry into your design, avoid sharp edges, limit your design to 10 pieces or less. Then scan your pattern and forward it to your instructor for approval. And that completes stained glass patterns.